what I want to talk about today is about, of course, my personal experiences with the mast cell issue. I actually do not have a mast cell activation disorder diagnosis. However, I do have angioedema diagnosis, which is something that's caused by mast cells, and angioedema is what causes a lot of the problems with mast cells. I think that because there's not a lot of research or enough research with mast cell, that that's probably the diagnosis that they use a lot of times. Well, and I can't even say that because there's not a lot of doctors who even deal with mast cell activation disorder. But I would say that angioedema is a big problem with mast cell activation, and probably a big reason why we have a lot of the symptoms that we do. So let's see, where should I start? I kind of set up a whiteboard here for us so that I could draw a little bit. Probably the first thing I want to do is talk about what happens in an allergic reaction, and I'll go over what I've learned, especially from Dr. Ann Maitland when I was at the Ehlers-Danlos Society Global Learning Conference. So I'm going to actually just start drawing right away. So what we learned at the conference from Dr. Maitland, in a normal allergic reaction, what happens is you have a person and they eat something and your body thinks that it's a danger. So this is called the Ige reaction. So the immune cells are called the Ige Immune Cells, which is a specific, it's called a specific allergy. So if you're going to eat something like strawberries, nuts, peanuts, something that you're specifically allergic to, even if it's grass, anything like that, these are the things that they test for when you go into the allergist's office. So you ingest this, you breathe it in, it's on your skin, whatever it is, and your body thinks it's a threat to your body. So then what your body wants to do is to get rid of, not let it into your body. So if it's on your skin, you'll get hives, and that'll push the allergen out of your body. If you're ingesting it, your throat's going to swell up so that you can't get any more of that dangerous substance into your body. So your throat swells up. The reason that your throat swells up is because your immune cells are actually, your mast cells are, it's called degranulating. So they're releasing all these chemicals into your body because it's supposedly an emergency. And one of those chemicals, a mediator, is called histamine. So the histamine is released in your body, and then what the histamine does is it makes your blood vessels more permeable. So it's going to make them, if you want to say, thinner, or whatever you want to call it. But when that happens and your blood vessels are more permeable, then the water that's in your blood system actually leaks out of your blood vessels into your tissues, and that's how your throat swells up, because all that water is pooling there. Your face can get swollen, things like that. So when you're, so say this is your mast cell, and then you have all of your little histamines in there, and then you're taking this food. The food touches you, and then all the mast cells are released, or the histamines are released. This is IgE allergy, and it's specific. This is not mast cell. No. And this is why people like us who have what seems like a lot of allergies can go into the allergist's office and come up with not being allergic to anything because we don't have specific allergies. Now, for me, what happens is, here is my mast cells, and here's the histamines in there, and other mediators, because your mast cells do have other mediators in them that are also released. So what happens to me is that I don't have specific allergies, but when I'm going about my daily activities and I'm coming into contact with pollen in the air, taking in food, I mean, really, it can be anything. It can be, scents in the air, anything that your body comes into contact with that could be a potential threat is starting to irritate and aggravate these cells. And the way that it was described to me is that over the course of the day or the week or the month or whatever it is, the more of these other things that you come into contact with, that I come into contact with, the lower my threshold is getting. So whatever the next thing is that I come into contact with, I could say be allergic to. So if I stay home and do nothing, and I don't eat anything, and I drink water, and there's no smells in my house, I'm not coming into contact with any allergens. But say I get up in the morning, I take a shower. Now, heat is known to aggravate the mast cells. Even cold temperature changes can aggravate the mast cells. So I take a shower and I use shampoo, and now I have scents, and I also have all these chemicals from the shampoo that are on my head and on my body. So there's like another non-specific allergen that my body's coming into contact with. Then I get off the shower and I dry off. Pressure, even pressure from towel, from sitting, from laying down, pretty much anything can aggravate these overly sensitive mast cells. So now I'm out of the shower and I'm leaving the house, or say I drink some coffee, now I'm ingesting some more non-specific allergens. I mean, for a normal person, of course, this isn't a big deal. Their bodies can handle it, but for whatever reason, whether it's genetic or whatever it is, I mean, they haven't figured it out yet for everybody. They have found, the National Institute of Health did release a report last October about some people who do have a gene that increases their tryptase levels, and that makes them more prone to allergies, so or to have an allergic reaction. But that's not going to be everybody with mast cell activation disorder, and a lot more research needs to be done on that. We've always wondered why one day we're allergic to something and the next day we're not, and that's why, because if I'm going to put lotion on in the morning, before I've eaten and before I've done all these other things and come into contact with all these other non-specific allergens, then I probably won't have a reaction to it unless I'm already in that overly active state. But if I'm putting lotion on at the end of the day after I've come into contact with a lot of other non-specific allergens, then I might have a reaction to it and get hives. So anyways, the way that I like to describe this right here is having a bag of oranges. So you buy a bag of oranges at the grocery store, and say a person without mast cell issues has the big oranges, and you got a bag with little holes, and so you can carry that bag around and nothing ever falls out of those holes. Now, for people like me, I might have that same bag, and then I have the little cuties, the little oranges that you get at the store. And so I'm carrying that bag around, and every time I bump it with something, or if I add in another little orange, you know, all of a sudden the oranges start falling out of the little holes, you know, because every little thing is irritating that. So by the end of the day, I have no more oranges in my bag because they're all falling out. And when they fall out, when your histamines fall out, when my histamines fall out, they're going into my bloodstream. So now you'll have histamines circulating in your body. So you got all these histamines, they're going in your stomach, in your head, all over your bloodstream, your whole body, you know, they're everywhere. And knowing what we know about histamines, and if you just study histamines, study the word histamine, just look up the word histamine itself, you know, the purpose of the histamines is, what it does is it makes your blood vessels more permeable. So, of course, now what happens? Now you have permeable blood vessels through your whole body. So I always thought that was normal because I've dealt with this my whole life. Yeah, pressure reactions. Yep. From chiropractic and physical therapy. Used to think they cause pain. It's more mast cell reaction, I think, from pressure. Yep. And I also think that even pressure causing a mast reaction can also cause pain. Because I know when I've had massages in the past, and it's like it feels good at the moment, but then later on it hurts. And knowing what I know now about like mast cells, like I really think that pressure actually increased my pain over time. So, you know, my sister, for example, she can get hives from sitting in a chair, which is pretty crazy, but her doctor, who is very familiar with mast cell, said that the pressure can trigger the mast cell reaction. So that's what's causing the hives. My throat is so dry. So anyways, so yeah, the pressure can trigger the mast cell. So, you know, that's something that's really important to know and to be aware of, especially if you're having a lot of reactions. Pressure, heat, cold, all these things are irritating these overly sensitive mast cells. And then you have them running all over your body. So what they call the mast cells is that they say that they're not stable. So they're weak. They're not stable. They're releasing these histamines and they're not supposed to be. And then you got the histamines running all over your body. Within the body, Dr. Maitland said that there's 4 histamine receptors. So one histamine receptor is in your stomach, and that's why we use the H2 blockers, which would be Zantac or Pepsid. So H2 is right here. Then we also have the H1 receptors And this is where the histamines are going to attach and like be used in your body. So the H1 receptors are going to be like when you have a runny nose or when you have stuff on your skin. So like the skin rashes. That means that the histamines are attaching to the receptors, and that's when you get all these reactions. We're also told at the conference that there's H3 and H4 receptors. They don't know where they are. Maybe they suspect where they are. They do suspect that one is in the brain. For me personally, well, there's more to this story than just the mast cell thing, but I'm just going to stick to this right now. So, because a lot of people with EDS also have drug metabolism issues. So if you have drug metabolism issues, that also makes everything much more complicated. But when I started taking my H1 and H2 blocker every single day, my symptoms got better. And I was taking them at a lower dose, and they didn't seem to be doing anything, and I just took them like occasionally. But because I had less of the skin symptoms, the nasal symptoms, I've had stomach issues and gastrointestinal issues my entire life. Those started going away. You know, I was pretty flared up. When I got really bad, it was after I moved to Rhinelander. And in Rhinelander, I moved to a house where we had a dog. We had 2 cats, and we're completely in the country. Like, there's trees all the way around my house. There's pollen coming in these windows. I mean, it's so pretty. And I used to open the windows and everything, but I don't do that anymore now that I know better. And I try to keep everything clean in here just to reduce my allergens. Even on days, say I'm not going to be here, we still keep the windows closed, because once you get those allergens into the house, I mean, you're still going to be breathing them in. They're going to be laying all over your house and in your carpet and in your, you know, everything. So anyways, so since that started helping me, then the doctor said that I could try mast cell stabilizer, which was the cromolyn. So cromolyn sodium, what it does is it actually makes these cells more stable, so that they're not constantly releasing histamine and being overly sensitive to everything. And I am still like really sensitive to things, but definitely less. So once you get these stabilized, you know, and for me, now those histamines and other mediators are going to stay inside that cell a lot better than before. So we don't have all this going on, or not as bad anyways. So now, here's me, and I'm blue. It's probably still wet. I guess I'll be green. So now that we have these stabilized in my body, because I'm taking cromolyn, I don't have nearly as many histamines running throughout my body. I might have a little bit, but nothing like it was. An important thing that I learned from Dr. Afrin is, and actually from my doctor that I see, is that this is really important, and to keep your mast cells stabilized is really important, because you don't want to get those histamines in your body and get it out of control. Once those start circulating in your body, I mean, you can do things to block their action with the H1 and the H2, But, you know, he actually said it's a snowball effect. So, you know, the first day you're not going to be so bad, the second day you're going to be worse, the third day you're going to be really worse. Pretty soon it's going to be out of control. So we have to really make sure that we're stabilizing the mast cells. So that's one, stabilize. The second thing is to take H1 and H2 regularly. We can't just take them when we think we have symptoms or when things start getting out of control. That's a bad idea. There's also people who I think you know, take, say, 1 Zyrtec a day, and that might be okay for some people, or they might take 1 Zyrtec like every once in a while when they need it. But our doctor told my sister that she could take like 4 Zyrtec a day, and that's for her, of course, not for everybody. And then for me, he said that studies have shown that we can take, studies have shown that it's safe to take up to 4 times the dose of Allegra in a day. So some people might take, I actually take, because I can't swallow pills still, I break mine in half, and they're 180 milligrams, and I can take that, I take half of 180 milligrams like 4 times a day, because I already have a dry mouth and stuff like that. Allegra is a really good medication. It's more expensive. It's not usually covered by insurance. Yeah. I'll actually go over the drug metabolism issue a little bit. Can you see this? Where I wrote the stabilizing and to taking that regularly. Hi, Miranda. I'm glad you're here. If you have any questions, let me know, Miranda. And hopefully you didn't miss too much, or maybe you can go back and watch it. This is a lot easier than trying to type everything out because my hands get really cramped. He said to take 1 in the morning and 1 at night, but when I'm reacting, I can take up to 2 in the morning and 2 at night, so taking up to 4 Allegra in a day. Okay, so we need to stabilize our mast cells. I need to stabilize my mast cells taking the cromolyn. When I take cromolyn, it's just amazing. So the other thing that happens when a person's having an allergic reaction is that your body knows that something's wrong. And so you have these histamines going on, and you have swelling going on, and then your brain and your heart are like, holy crap, you're gonna die. So then it releases adrenaline. And so many people with EDS have these adrenaline rushes, and we're in like constant fight or flight mode. You know, I just wonder how much related that is to histamines and histamine release. And your body knows that there's too many histamines in your body, so it's constantly releasing adrenaline to try to save your life. We've known for years, Dr. Pasinki's always said that Propranolol was a medication that helped people with these adrenaline rushes, and for whatever reason, you know, he studied that. Dr. Pasinki is an amazing doctor, and you know, he always knew that Propranolol helped people with EDS. It helps us with the adrenaline rushes, it helps us with sleeping. Well, Propranolol is a beta blocker. Hi, Vanessa. Glad you can make it. So Propranolol is a beta blocker, And likely, you know, the reason that it's helping us to sleep and not have these adrenaline rushes is because, you know, is blocking that adrenaline that our body is releasing in response to the histamine that's being released into the body, that's making our tissues swell and causing us all of these problems. So anyways, when I take cromolyn, I mean, I don't have these adrenaline rushes. And I mean, I think that that's because I don't have all these extra histamines running around in my body because my mast cells are stabilized. So that's kind of preventing the problem. Now, cromolyn, it's a very sensitive medication. It comes in foil packets because it's sensitive to the light. You can't get it, you know, out of a certain temperature range. Anyways, I forget what I was saying. So I'm not getting these adrenaline rushes, and it's really, the medication itself is not that stable. So when I take it, I can actually tell if I forget to take my next dose of it, I start having heart palpitations again, and I'm like, oh crap, or like I'll start having all these symptoms, like my throat will start being tight, or I'll be itchy. You know, even when you have all these things going on in your body, and you have like pain here and pain there and whatever, not only that, you think about the receptors that are the H3 and the H4 receptors that could be in your brain, and you know, those things like say building up or going into your brain, it makes it hard to think. And when I don't take my cromolyn, when it wears off, I get the heart palpitations. I also get the brain fog comes back, and I think that's the histamine like building up in the brain. So I take the cromolyn, and if I take it every day, and if I take the H1 and the H2 every day regularly, so that that stuff doesn't get built up in my body, you know, it helps a lot with my symptoms. So I feel like I covered pretty much all of that. Do you have any questions about that? I want to actually talk about the drug metabolism, because I know a lot of us have that same issue, and there's a really fine line between being allergic to medications and having drug metabolism issues. And I think it's really important for some of us to understand the difference between having an allergy and actually having drug metabolism issues. Yeah, so the medication Allegra is a H1, and that one is a preferred medication because it's a second generation antihistamine, which means that it's longer lasting than like Benadryl. Benadryl is a first generation antihistamine, and it's cholinergic. It actually makes you more dry. And those types of medications have been proven to be associated with Alzheimer's. You know, and the way that I've heard it described is that like it's like drying out your body and it's slowing things down, and like you don't have, you know, the thing, like everything's not moving how it's supposed to be, especially like say in your brain. So those are, Allegra is the one that's not drying, it's not cholinergic. I don't know how to say that word. Sorry. So anyways, then there's Zyrtec, which is an H1, and that one's drying. That one's pretty cheap, and a lot of people go to that one. Insurance companies cover that one because it's not expensive. And then there's like Claritin. Claritin, I've heard, doesn't work as well even as Zyrtec. But if you have problems with like being dry, or like having dry skin or dry mouth, dry eyes, you probably want to stay away from like Zyrtec or Claritin. You would probably want to go with Allegra. I've also heard, like when I was having surgery, from the person on the surgical unit, that that a lot of people use Allegra. She seemed pretty familiar with like histamines and MAS stuff, and she said, and I've had other doctors tell me too, that Allegra is definitely preferred over the other H1s. For H2s, there's ranitidine, which is also called Zantac, and then there's Pepcid, which is, I don't know what the name of that one is. I can't think of it right now. But according to Dr. Efron's book, which I put the link to his book in the comments or in the description, in his book he says that Pepcid is 9 times stronger than Zantac, which is ranitidine. So a lot of people do take ranitidine and they say it doesn't help, but if you think about the dosing, you know, I take 20 milligrams at least twice a day, and if I'm having more GI symptoms, I'll actually take like at least one more. I break them in half, so I can take 50 to, sometimes I've taken 80 when I'm like desperate for some relief, when I'm so swollen. But on a normal day, I'll take 40 milligrams. I'll take 20 in the morning and 20 at night. And like I said, the key is to take it all the time, to take it regularly, to not let those histamines build up in your body. I'm glad you're here. So I'm actually going to get rid of this. And I really want to talk about drug metabolism, because for me, when on my medical record, it says that I have a whole bunch of drug allergies, and some medications, say for example like Propranolol or like oxycodone, it'll say I'm allergic to them, but I still have prescriptions for them and I take them. And I take them in really low doses. And there's a reason for that. It's because I'm not actually allergic to them. I suppose, knowing about mast cells, you could say, you know, if I take one of this and one of this and one of this, then, you know, it could build up and then I could have a reaction, but that doesn't mean that I'm allergic to them specifically. So, as far as like the drug metabolism issues versus drug allergies, so some people can take a normal dose of medication, say most people. Here is where we want to be, where the drug should be working at. And this is where we start at. So you take a medication, and it's supposed to last for 6 hours. So a normal person with a normal drug metabolism is going to take this medication, get up to the therapeutic dose, it's going to work, and it's going to stop working at 6 hours. Then they're going to take another one, and the same thing's going to happen. I gotta grab my water. So now, there's people like me. I have a really fast metabolism for certain medications. There are 6 different enzymes that metabolize drugs, medications. Well, let's say at least 6. 6 enzymes that metabolize 25% of all medications. One of those enzymes, which is CYP2D6, is the one that I maybe have extra of it, or it just works really fast. So that enzyme actually metabolizes 25% of all medications. So I'll take the same medication as somebody else. My body will digest it so quickly if I took a normal dose, so fast that now I'm above the therapeutic dose, which is dangerous, that's bad. And then at the same time, it's out of my system in 3 hours instead of 6, or maybe 4 hours, or maybe 2 hours, which that's not good. You can see that's a problem because now it's dangerous, now from 3 hours to 6 hours, I have no medication. And this is, I think, I've seen this a lot when I worked at rehab, is that these are people who are called like the drug seekers. So they're looking for more medication because they're saying that it wears off, and people don't believe them. Yep. Same. And I put a link to something in the comments. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But so now we run out of medications early, and we're like high, or we look high, and we're like, well, I'm just trying to take a normal dose. The best example of the one that I have a problem with, and a lot of people have a problem with, 2D6, CYP 2D6. So that's the one I metabolize really quickly. The best example of that one is codeine. And they used to actually, I read some studies where codeine was actually used in people to see if they had this going on. So if I take codeine, it knocks me out really bad, which is not good, because it's doing this, getting it really high in my blood level. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, where we have people who don't metabolize things as quickly as they should, which is also not good. So say they take a normal dose of medication and they don't really ever metabolize it, and it kind of just stays in their body because it's never metabolized. We don't know how long it's going to stay in their body. So they're not getting relief, and they have this medication in their system for who knows how long. Now at 6 hours, they go to take another dose, but no, they're not starting down here, they're starting here. So they go take another dose, here we go. Now it's going into their body, and who knows how long it's going to be there. Now, go to another 6 hours, time for their next dose. They're not here, they're not here, they're here. Now, they go and they take another dose. And now they're in the dangerous level. So even if they're like a poor metabolizer, and maybe the first dose doesn't work and it's not okay, the second dose, oh, I think it's working now. You know, that could even happen on the third or the fourth or the sixth dose. I mean, once it builds up to that level, oh great, it's working. And then all of a sudden, a week into, you know, taking this new medication, all of a sudden it's making you sick. And this could be why. This is really important because I'm not allergic to codeine. I am a rapid metabolizer of codeine. I'm not allergic to oxycodone. I'm a rapid metabolizer of it. So knowing this, I can take a lower dose, and so with a smaller dose, I can go right here. And it actually would still only last that long for me, so then I still take the other half of the dose right there if I needed to. But, you know, that's ideal. You want to be getting into this therapeutic line here without having the problem. Another problem with this is that the link that I put into the comments or the description for this event was for the Indiana University Flockhart table, it's called. And what that is that a list of medications that are metabolized by different enzymes. So if you go to the Flockhart table, it's going to tell you a list of substrates. And what that is a substrate is, so codeine is metabolized by 2D6. That's what a substrate is. It's that it's metabolized by that enzyme. Then beneath that, it's going to give you a list of inhibitors. And this is the part that I really wanted you to know about, because is very, very, very important. I used to take Zyrtec whenever I thought that I needed it. And I used to also have a lot of problems with my medications. What I found out after I learned about this is that Zyrtec is an inhibitor of 2D6. So, I don't know how long the Zyrtec stays in your body. I mean, they really don't have studies out about this. Because if I knew how long Zyrtec could stay in my body and how long it would inhibit the 2D6 enzyme and all that stuff, then I could maybe account for it, but there's no study, there's no way to know how long that's going to stay in your body and how long it's going to be inhibiting the activity of your enzymes. So, anyways, I would take Zyrtec, and then all of a sudden, my medication that I'm taking here at the low dose, all of a sudden is only working like this because the activity of that enzyme was inhibited. And so now all of a sudden my medication's not working. And it doesn't, that's why it's really important if you have drug metabolism issues that you're taking the same medications at the same time every day. I do not want to mess with anything. It's the same concept behind on like grapefruit juice. It's a big deal with grapefruit juice sometimes when you're taking medications, because grapefruit juice can actually be an inducer. So, inducer, for me, this isn't very relevant because there's only one thing that's an inducer for 2D6, and that's, I think it's dexamethasone or something like that. Something that I don't take. But it's good to know about. So, an inducer. So say I took the dexamethasone, if that's the one that's the inducer, and I take this medication at the low dose, that normally goes to here for me. Now this low dose, when I'm on this inducer, all of a sudden this low dose is doing this to me with this medication. So you can start to see how not taking medications, like the same medications regularly, affects all your other medications. So you really want to find something that you can take. Like for me, I can't mess with any of my medications. We actually went on a road trip to Colorado and I tried the CBD oil, and I can't say that it helped me, maybe because I was afraid of taking enough, because I was afraid I'd have a reaction. But what it did do is for like 3 days, all my other medications didn't work. Most of the medications I take are metabolized by 2D6. I'm going to wrap this up here in a few minutes. I don't want it to go on too long. But I'm really hoping that you got some good information here and that it helps things to make more sense for you, because I know there's a lot of people here, a lot of people who need this information. I would really love to share this information with a lot more people, but just because of, legal things, I'm not a medical professional. I can't give you medical advice. I can tell you about what I've been doing and I can tell you what I've learned, but I can't, answer or say specific questions about what medications you should or shouldn't be taking. And maybe I can just summarize some of what we talked about. Does this make sense to you guys? Or does it help you, with, do you think it'll help you in the future with your medications? Now I can look at the list at the doctor's office and I say, oh, well, and I don't even tell them anymore because they don't really get it. I did have one emergency room doctor. She's like, oh, you're like one of those people, you can't take like different stuff, because she wanted to give me like 2 new medications. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea, and let me check and see how they're metabolized. And she's like, oh, you're one of those people. Like, she gets it, but there's not a lot of research out there. I even went to my pharmacist to find out which allergy medicine I could take, that was not metabolized by 2D6. And he's like, what? I went to more than one pharmacy and asked that. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, how do you, as a pharmacist, not know what these drug metabolism enzymes are? Like, that just seems crazy. Like, how do they not know? But, you know, he was an older pharmacist, and it's new, it's new information. It's not something that's been out there for very long. It's still being researched. The best resource I've found for the drug metabolism stuff is the Flockhart table from Indiana University. I'm just going to summarize a little bit. I have some notes here because I want to make sure that I didn't forget anything. So, a good thing to remember is when you're having a lot of allergies and reactions, probably a lot of people are having reactions right now because the pollen's outside, so there's increased allergens. So the keys are going to be reduce non-specific allergens, which that's really funny to say because most people think that allergies are specific, and they're not. So reduce non-specific allergens. So if you're in a highly allergic state, if I'm in a highly allergic state, I am going to cut out all the different things that can be affecting me. So I'm going to eat less different kinds of foods. I will probably stay in my house. I probably won't take any kinds of new medications. That's something that I dislike about like the essential oils and actually a lot of the over-the-counter like home remedies and stuff like that is like, oh well, you should breathe in, you know, this aroma and put this on your skin and do that and take this supplement. And I mean, what are we doing to ourselves? We're increasing our allergen load. And so keep that in mind. You really want to reduce your allergens, stabilize your mast cells. I think I have oh, I don't have it here. Actually, I might have it here. What I'm looking for is I have a bottle of quercetin. I don't really know how I know how to spell it. This is a mast cell stabilizer you can get over the counter. It has been, what I've read about it from reliable, credible sources is that it actually can work better than gastrochrome. If you prefer to go the route, you know, anything, of course, you should be going through your medical professional, but if you prefer to get like a prescription, gastrochrome is what I take, which is chromoline sodium. And it's actually very, very, very expensive. So if you don't have insurance, you do not want to go that route. Gastrochrome is authorized for use for people with IBS. So if you have IBS and a lot of allergies, you can go to your GI doctor and say, I heard this is working for people with IBS and people who have EDS, and can I try it? you know, if it's going to help your other symptoms at the same time that it's helping your IBS, then, you know, if you can get your doctor to do that and they follow you, I mean, I would say that would be completely safe. I just can't imagine ever not taking cromolyn sodium because it's helped me so much. And then regular use of H1 and H2. The other thing that I wanted to say is that ever since I started taking the cromolyn sodium, is you know how I said that like there's H3 and H4 receptors. So if you're stabilizing mast cells and you have less histamines going through your body, and they think that some of those receptors are in your brain, I have less brain fog when I'm taking my gastrocom. And it's kind of like taking my ADHD medication, which is weird and crazy. And I can tell that, you know, if I don't take it, my brain fog gets worse, and it's like more ADHD symptoms. And then some people have wondered, and I've wondered this too, is like how come do the antihistamines like stop working over time? You know, because some people will still have symptoms. Like they're doing all this and they're doing really good, and then all of a sudden they have symptoms. Why is that? Well, what Dr. Efron said when I was at Wellapalooza is that most likely, well, it could be a couple things. One thing that it could be is that if they change the ingredients in here, you could start, say, having a reaction to ingesting these things because of the ingredients. The other reason is because, most likely, he said, is because you're having increased allergens in your environment. So, for me personally, I was doing really good. I was eating. I actually gained like 10 pounds, and I need to stop gaining weight now that I can. Then all of a sudden, like a week ago, I started like throwing up and everything again. And you know what Dr. Efron said, it rings true like every time. The increased pollen outside, you know, that happened like right around the same time. So even though I'm doing all the same things and like eating the same things, because of the increased pollen, now I have more allergens coming in, and I might need more, you know, antihistamines or something like that. So I would really, really recommend that you get Dr. Efron's book, Never Bet Against Occam. If you don't have it, get it. There's so much good information in there. It's kind of a little bit of everything. You don't have to read the whole book. Half the book is like 600 or 700 pages. Half of the book, the second half, is all mostly terms. The first half of the book is divided into like 14 or 17 chapters. You can go to each chapter individually. You don't have to read it front to back, because each chapter goes with a body system or symptom, like a way that the mast cell activation disorder can affect people. And so if you go through that and you start to see like all these similarities of what histamines are doing to people's bodies, you know, they're making our blood vessels more permeable. And if you have a permeable blood vessel that's leaking water into your tissues, you know, of course that can cause a stomach ache. Of course that can cause, you know, constipation. Of course it causes headaches, and it causes brain swelling, and probably your brain's gonna be, you know, might shoot out the bottom and cause Chiari symptoms. A lot of people that get the Chiari surgery, you know, that doesn't work for them. And why? Because they probably still have the histamines in their body, and their brain's probably still swelling. I mean, I've also seen people who don't recover after surgery, and if you look at their incisions, it's all red. Like when you have an allergic reaction. You get that redness on your skin. So if you look at the incision site, you can see, I mean, to me now it's really obvious because I've been watching this for a while now. It's really obvious that these are histamines that are attacking the site and not letting it heal. You know, people with EDS have poor healing. So anyways, when I had my surgery, and I know 2 other people who have tried this, taking, you know, antihistamines when, you know, especially the H1s, because those are the ones on the skin, and they've healed so much better, you know, but you have to take those every single day. And I took them after my surgery, and I really didn't have much problem. The only problem I had was about 7 or 8 weeks after my surgery. I tried lifting a tire because I got a flat tire, and that was a bad idea. I started bleeding a little bit. Let's see. I also put the link in the description for GeneSight. GeneSight is a company that will test you genetically to see if you have the drug metabolism issues. So that can help you if you're wondering, if you're confused about what medications you can or can't take. I didn't have the GeneSight testing because I'm fully aware of what I can or can't take. I tell my doctors I only want a little bit of it, and if I'm okay with that, I'll try a little bit more. And I also pay attention if it's affecting my other medications. So I've gotten to a really good place personally, and I hope that other people can too, because this stuff is awful. It's awful not knowing what's wrong, what's going on, what's going to happen from the day to day. I don't think that, you know, for me personally, I don't need to get the testing. For me, I'm comfortable with being aware and communicating this with my doctors. You know, so many of them don't have this information. They're bombarded. I mean, with the growth of the internet and all the information that's out there now, they can't keep up. They really, honestly, they cannot keep up with everything, and I think we should give them a little slack and try communicating with them and just doing our best that way, because I think we're going to get a lot further doing it that way than being mad at them. There's so many laws and regulations. Oh my gosh, there's so much politics involved. I just can't even get into all that right now. There's a lot going on though. I've actually read studies and studied this when I was in college about doctors and how, because they used to do this pay for performance with doctors, where they would pay them more if they perform better. Well, pay for performance actually did not work, and they might still do that, but the studies have shown that pay for performance did not produce any better results than, you know, an average doctor. And what they found was that doctors are doing their best no matter what. It doesn't matter what they're getting paid. Incentives aren't going to make them, you know, perform any better. Doctors go to school to help people, and you have to really, really want to do that in order to go to med school. And med school is super hard. College is super hard already, and just to think of med school and everything that they've been through. You know, there's definitely doctors who don't know how to communicate and aren't good at that, but they're still very smart. So, you know, building a relationship with their doctors is really, really important. And to see them as a person and to give them a break and to work with them. They always have rules to follow. There's procedures and guidelines, and they can't just do what we want them to do. You know, they have to follow the rules, and they have to follow the procedures and the order, and they have to do this test before they can do that test, and you have to try this medication before you can do that medication. So, do you have any other questions? Anybody? Let's see. I'm gonna go. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be leaving this video up or not, because I just really, I want the information to be out there for people to help, but I also don't want, I'm not giving medical advice. I just want to help you guys to feel better, and hopefully EDS Wisconsin can help spread this information around, because there are doctors who know about this, but when you think about what they're doing during the course of the day, they're working and they're trying to help people. And the whole reason I went to school for healthcare management was so that I could help more people. I mean, I thought about going to school to be a doctor, and I was like, well, I could see maybe 10 patients a day, 5 days a week, so I'd see 50 patients a week. And to me, I'm like, well, can I reach more people than that? How can I reach more people than that? Well, what I figured is that by having an organization, or actually my original idea was like hosting a seminar or something like that, so that I could do something like this in front of like a lot of people, like a lot of doctors. So I could, teach, say, 50 doctors, and those 50 doctors are going to see 50 patients in a week. And I thought that would be more helpful than actually just going to medical school. So that's still what I'm hoping to do with EDS Wisconsin, and I want to start in our state and start working with doctors, working with patients. And there's really a lot of doctor burnout. Doctors are really tired of this system and how it's being run and implemented, and that they can't help patients the way that they want to. And so getting communication going between doctors and patients, and finding out what we need, finding out what they need, and what is the best way to get this stuff going, and to, get them educated. And for us, when we're in a crisis, when we're having hives all over our body, our pain so awful, and they don't know what to do because we can't take any medications and we react to everything, I mean, honestly, they don't know what to do. And if EDS Wisconsin can be a resource for, doctors like that, or to teach them before they people get to that point, that's really, really what I hope that we can accomplish. And I want to have doctors or centers in each section of the state that can do this. So I'm gonna go.